All right, we're live with another episode of Good Dads, episode 3.
Episode 3, baby.
So, welcome our first guest that we have ever had on the show. This is pretty cool. I'm really excited. Got Brady Slack here with us. Brady, welcome.
I'm number one.
Dude,
oh yeah,
number one, our
Wow,
first,
I'm
as they
honored.
say.
I'm the trial run.
Yeah, dude.
the trial.
So,
It'll be worth it.
yeah, man. Excited you're here. Glad you're here. Can you give us some background, man? Give the people an introduction of Brady Slack and who you are and what you do. And yeah, let's kick it off with that.
I'm not anyone special. I'm just Brady. First off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I am managing partner of High Country Finance. We're a full service tax and accounting firm. I've been in the tax and accounting industry for almost 9 years now, specializing in some advisory consulting services. And then I'm co-founder in Stacked. Thanks for repping, Isaac.
Yeah.
I just, I enjoy business. I enjoy taxes. I enjoy growth. I enjoy leadership and just trying to be better every day. A little bit about me. Born and raised in Utah. Don't know that I'll ever leave, even though the sun of Arizona right now is not bad. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell us about your family. Like on the Good Dads podcast, tell me about your kids. How many kids do you have? Tell us about, that situation.
Okay. I'll go one step further. So I'm in my family growing up, I'm the oldest of 6 boys.
Oh, wow.
Born and raised with great parents, still together. We still do a lot together. I'm I've got a brother who's like 14 years old. There's a 15-year spread. So they still have some kids at home, high schooler and a middle schooler. But that was a blast growing up. Now, so I've been married for about 5 years now. We have 2 little boys and one on the way. So yeah, we're just getting after it, getting busy. We've got a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and they keep us busy. So
Super busy.
Dude, 6 boys? Holy
6
cow.
boys.
That's insanity.
And you're the oldest, you said?
I'm the oldest, yeah. Numero uno.
Wow. Oh no. Dude,
Dang,
what a
dude.
good time. Were you guys big hunting family when you were growing up?
No. This is
No way.
that's the best. Yeah, so we did a little bit. Like we would go pheasant hunting once a year for Thanksgiving with my dad's side of the family. We did a couple deer hunts. I would go with some friends here and there, but it wasn't something that like we did all the time, which is so funny because and my wife kind of makes fun of me now for it because I love to go so much now that she's like, "Where'd this come from? You didn't love to do this before." And it was like, I did. We just didn't like have the avenue to do it. Plus, like when I was growing up, I was on a really competitive soccer team. We played somewhat internationally, travel team. So that went into the fall, and then I played football as well. So I was double dipping in both soccer and football. So transparently, like I didn't have a ton of time to just take off and go for 4 or 5 days hunting, and that was kind of more of a priority when I was younger too. So
Totally.
but now it's like I don't play soccer, I don't play football anymore. So let's go, baby.
You're like, let's go. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I'd say that. My wife would probably say the same thing about me. Like, where did this all come from? And I'm not very good at it. So it's like we're trying to pick it up. But the hobbies you get later in life, I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's definitely nothing like, when you're dating.
Yeah.
My wife thought she was marrying a doctor. And I went and started selling pest control.
Yeah.
Solar. So
Yeah.
My wife probably thought I was marrying a drug dealer or something.
she's like,
what the freak is this? Oh, I'm just playing. Oh,
so I'm curious,
good time.
I'm the oldest of 3 boys, so not 6.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that part of this and what I love is even just in the last 2 seconds, we've been business partners for how long, right? And I never knew that stuff, which is so funny. And I think that's my favorite part about this podcast is you're just talking about things that on most podcasts, it's like the money situation and the business, acumen and all this stuff. But I think so much of who we are as business people and functioning in society is as a result of our childhood in my opinion. There's like a lot that's tied in with that. So I'd be curious, like from your perspective, I mean, well, what's the difference between being the oldest child versus everybody else? Like, I mean, is that a different situation? Like, do you see traits, in the way that you operate now that tie back to childhood? Like, how did your childhood, he's got ChatGPT on over here, man. Freaking.
I didn't mean for that.
How
did your childhood impact how you are right now?
I'd be interested to see like if there are studies about this or what other people, like what the math says about being the oldest. I think, and I think there's just like generally some kind of responsibility or weight that's put on the shoulders of the oldest, even if it's inadvertent. Like I don't ever think my parents intentionally put stuff on me for being the oldest, but I think it's just kind of the unspoken setup where the oldest, hey, like you're supposed to be the example. You get to experience things first, and your brothers, and at least in my case, your brothers will probably do similar things that you want to do, and this is, it's kind of a weird, I kind of have a weird complex with it now because my this is a hard conversation for me. I struggled with addiction recovery and went through addiction recovery programs twice. There's a lot of things that I did when I was in high school that I don't think my parents still know about. I was a fantastic liar. And so the idea that I was good, I went and served a church mission. I am, you would refer to it as successful today with the businesses and what we have going on, in my different professional endeavors. Like I remember being in high school and I was a good football player. I had the opportunity to go play in college. And I remember there was a practice. My brother was 2 years younger than me. He would dress for varsity, but I played varsity and I was a starter and I was a team captain. And my coach one day told my brother, my younger brother, he said, why aren't you more like your older brother? And to this day, me and my brother could not be more different. Like we really are. Our mannerisms are different. How we act is different. Like our goals are different. And that still to this day kind of bugs me because I don't want him to feel like he has any pressure to accomplish what I accomplish or do what I do or perform how I perform because we're different, and I kind of have a hard time sometimes with some of the success that I have internally because I don't want any of my brothers, even though I'm the oldest, I don't want any of my brothers to have some sort of expectation that they don't need to have, So it's kind of hard. Yeah. It's a hard conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that comparison of like, yeah, it's like, we're totally different humans. We don't need to be compared. We don't have to be the same. It's like, oh, I don't have to be, we're both driven, but different directions. Like all of our, I look at that same thing being the oldest boy out of the bunch. And man, yeah, it's
the oldest too, huh?
Oldest boy. Yeah. I got 6 older sisters. So, it is what it is, but yeah, that was always a big scary thing of like, you don't have to like, you're not like, oh, get up to my level. It's like we're at the same level.
You're your own level. You build your own level.
Yeah. You're at your own level and you're living your life. You drive what it is, just, dream. And yeah, for your coach to, I don't know. You think about it though, the coaches, it's like, why aren't you, driven like that? And it's such a weird comment, but as a coach, it might have been like, oh, I'm going to help this kid like drive, and you look in that situation.
Even as a parent, like I've got 2 boys, and I didn't really realize it. Like my parents would always say, like, man, you guys couldn't have been any different. And there's some similarities between us. We were all raised in, the same environment, or at least a similar environment, and same standards. And so, but I look at my 2 boys and they're young, 3.5 and 1.5. Like I can't predict what they're going to do 10 years from now or 15 years from now, but I can already tell. And like internally, my older son is like, he's a little bit more sensitive. He's tenderhearted. He, is a little bit more cautious. And my 1.5-year-old, he doesn't give a rip. He's jumping off couches and running into walls and like punching anyone he sees. And it's like, and sometimes I'm like, to my older son in my head, I'm like, dude, why can't you just be a little bit more aggressive? Why can't you just like quit whining, like that?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, I need to stop. Wow.
You're like, yeah. No, dude, I could same. My two boys, same thing. It's like, the older one's a little more soft. I think they take guilt on from other, they watch a sibling get punished and they're like, they take that upon themselves and you're like, no, like you're fine. That's such a weird one, man.
Yeah. My kids are the same way. My oldest daughter, super, super, very just quiet, kind, very sensitive. And then, our middle child is like, I always call her she's the Sour Patch Kid. And it's like one day she's super sour and just going crazy. And other days she's like super sweet, so it's just very, very funny how that is. And I think that's how I just relate a ton as the oldest boy, because going through like college, high school, whatever, if you live in the same place, your brothers probably went to the same schools and did the same stuff, the same sports, and like even some of the same teachers and all this stuff. And it's just very much that's the first time I've heard someone kind of flip it of, the older child being concerned about their effect essentially on their siblings just because of the fact that they came first. Right. And like the teachers would treat them differently potentially because of the fact that they interacted. And I know my brothers experienced the same thing, which is, really you put yourself in their shoes, like not ideal for them for sure.
Yeah. Like I've got one brother who just recently came home early from a church mission, and that taboo of, well, now he's got 3 older brothers who went on a mission. And, I don't think people realize what he struggled with and some of the, medical help that he's getting because of what he struggled with. And he's like, it's nothing serious, but it's like, that's what he struggled with, but he's going to come home early. And what are people like, what is he going to feel? Because we didn't have to come home, and it has nothing to do with us or him. It's just situational. I've got another brother who's still in high school who is arguably the best athlete out of all of us. And there are still people in the school that, taught while we were going to school, and the comparisons that they make, it's kind of hard. And that, like, it's kind of been this weird complex that I've had to deal with, or that I've dealt with internally. It's weird.
Yeah. I could see that. What angle, like having that, what angle do you feel yourself angling with your kids? When you're like, I don't know if I'm wording that right, but angling towards like raising them in a different way, not a different way, but like being very sensitive to those topics that you struggled with. Do you get what I'm saying?
Does your parenting change because of your experience as a kid?
Does my parenting change? I would say the way that I react initially isn't any different. However, after we have a minute to kind of process the situation, I think then that creates an opportunity for us to finish the situation differently. In fact, we were just talking about this at family dinner a week and a half ago at my parents' house. And we were saying it's so funny to see how like different we all are, even though the environment and the circumstances were all pretty much the same, And my mom did say that one of the things that she realizes now is that she didn't alter the way that they parented quick enough for each child. And she says that is something that she feels like has affected some of us in a way. And I thought that's interesting. And so again, like, I think the way, like, if my 3-year-old does something that's ticked me off, he's going to get a bum spanking or his hand smacked or his mouth popped because he said or did something that he shouldn't have done. He's going to go whine because he is tenderhearted, and he's probably going to go to his room, shut the door, give himself a minute to breathe and calm down. He's going to come back out and say sorry. And then I'm going to have the opportunity to still be mad or say, hey, like it's okay, but this is why we don't do it, and correct at that point when he still is kind of fresh and understanding it. But I could do a better job of, instead of the first correction, maybe processing it a little different for him. My second one, like I said, he doesn't really give a rip. He doesn't care. So he's going to get it regardless. But
that's so real. And like, so essentially we're saying, you know, you got to parent these kids differently as individuals, you know, like you treat them differently. That's,
but it's, but
okay.
Truthfully, it's no different than like our business conversations. Like I can talk to one partner one way, and I have to talk to another partner a completely different way, either because they're not going to process the situation the same. They're not going to feel the same. Maybe they're going to have a different viewpoint. Like even today, I was talking to Mike about something, and I was like, okay, I've got to share it with him in this way because this is how he's going to understand it, and this is how we're going to come to a conclusion together, you know? And I think you've really, like, Brady's bullheaded. He doesn't care. He's not emotional. So I'm just going to give it to him, and then we'll process it like that. That's just how I am and how I operate.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. Totally. That's sweet. Heck yeah. Let me run through these real quick. What's been the most rewarding moment for you as a dad? So far.
The most rewarding. It's kind of hard when they're that young because they.
I know, like 3.5 years or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one thing that this is an argument that my wife and I have constantly, is how she dresses our boys. Like all the Zara and H&M crap that she buys for them, it's just like, don't put it on. Like they don't look like boys. Like put them in a Nike shirt and sweatshirt or something like that, you know, with basketballs and that, you know. But it, like, even this morning, my wife we all eat breakfast in the morning before I leave for work, and it's Tuesdays and Thursdays is preschool day for my son, and he knows, and so he's got to finish his breakfast and then he's got to go get dressed. And today, and you both know how I dress, but today he's like, Dad, I want to wear my boots and my belt like Daddy. And he'll say that all the time. Dad, I want to wear my boots and my belt like Daddy, you know, and he'll go pull them out of his closet, and then his mom will make him wear something else, and he whines for a minute because he wants to dress like Dad. And it's like, okay, that's one win for me that happens consistently. It's like, even last night we went to dinner, and both of them, like, it was the funniest thing, but I put my hat on because we'd been working, you know, all day, and I hadn't really gotten ready or whatnot. And we went to dinner. So I just put a hat on, and both of them ran back to their rooms and grabbed their ball caps and wore their ball caps to dinner. Like, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to be like Dad. So like, that's a win for me. That's awesome.
I like it. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Dude, I love that. That is super fun. Watching them grow up, being like you. That's
what's yours? What's your win?
That's definitely a big win for me, for my kiddos. Big win is you know, just when you get a compliment out there and they're like, wow, they're just like you. No,
looks just like you, actually like you. You're like, say it again.
Yeah.
Depends on the situation, because I've done some real stupid stuff. So
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. No, 100% agree with that. I think I don't know. I'm a super emotional person. So like, if I'm seeing them like get passionate about it, like I was at my daughter's piano recital, and we were at like their dance recitals, and like just watching them be passionate and excited about that. Cool. Those are the moments where I'm like, man. And like, I truly grew up thinking, like, my parents, I'd be up there like, you know, playing a sport or something, and my parents would be crying about it, and I'm like, so weird, you know. And now I'm the dad in the crowd, like, oh my gosh, you're so good. And it's hilarious how, but I don't know. Yeah, that for me would be my joy of my like accomplishment, is seeing them be excited about accomplishing a skill that they have, you know, perfected.
Practiced. That's cool.
That for me.
What about you, Devin?
I would say, honestly, for me, I love the fact that when I sit at my desk, so like in the mornings, I'll wake up, do my kind of morning study, right? Get a book and then read another book, and I'm sitting there and I'll write. And more often than not, if the girls wake up, and my youngest is he's only like 18 months old, so he's not doing this yet, but when more often than not, the girls will wake up and they'll come grab little chairs and they'll put them on the desk next to me and they'll go grab books and they'll just sit there and like read. And that is just such a good thing for me. Like, I just think it's so like cool. They're seeing it. I don't tell them to. They just like go grab their books.
Yeah.
And I've seen that multiple times, like when I walk into their room and they're just sitting there reading. And that I think is just I don't know, I'm grateful for that. It's a good experience. Yeah. Just one of those things that you see them do and you're like, all right, cool. Well, they don't pick up everything, but there are certain things that they do see.
Yeah.
So
don't pick up my bad habits.
Yeah, exactly. And then my little one, this is on the opposite side. I drink an energy drink and he grabs the can empty and he's running around the house, 18-month-old, like, it's like, dude, like way too early, man. Yeah. Don't do that. So anyways, yeah. So,
so real.
I'm curious. This is just random. It came up, but I'm the oldest. My wife is the oldest in her family. What about you? What's your situation, Brady? Does your wife have siblings?
She's third of four. So she's got two older brothers and then one younger sister.
What about you?
Mine is the middle of three.
Okay, middle.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Oldest boys married.
Yeah. Yeah, just sister. Yeah, she just got two sisters. So
cool.
And but you can totally tell just each, kind of expanding on that. Each age difference of like the oldest takes on a lot more responsibility. You can see that just in the groups, like, and especially because, like you were saying earlier too, it's like the oldest, like, given, I'm like, you're old enough to like go grab me stuff now. And then you start using that and it's like, okay, sweet. My processes.
Yeah.
Like recently we just started, our oldest is babysitting and it's been a blast. Yeah. Because it's like, but you have other babysitters that come over and you're like, they don't really know how, my wife's very particular on the cleaning and she's so excited because it was like, man, I get my kids to do it that know exactly how I want it because I'm OCD. No, but it's just so funny.
Yeah.
But,
hey, Brady, I'm curious. So like, let's say you wrote a book on being a dad, or obviously you're going to teach your kids, your sons, how to be a dad. What would be the most important lessons that you would want to pass down to them about being a dad, or not just them, maybe anybody that's going to be a dad that's not a dad yet? Or I'm really curious, like, what out of everything, all the different roles, all the different responsibilities that it takes to be a dad, from your perspective, maybe the top couple that kind of stand out as being the most important. I'm curious.
I have a couple thoughts on this. There's a quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote, so I apologize in advance, but there's a quote that basically says, people don't emulate what you tell them, people emulate what you show them. And so, like, there are things that, like, I tell my boys every day before I leave for work, and I ask them, are you going to be happy today? Are you going to be kind? And are you going to work hard? And they'll play and say no, and we'll kind of wrestle and stuff. But like, I say that every day before I go to work. Are you going to be happy, kind, and are you going to work hard? And those are kind of three key components to life that I think are important, that I would love for them to not only understand that I'm saying it, but that I'm living that, cool. I remember when you have the book Rich Dad Poor Dad that kind of goes over Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, and truthfully, my dad was not my rich dad. My dad was my dad owned a small cleaning company, but my dad works for the government. He works 410s. He's he's a great example of what it is to be a good dad, what it is to be spiritual, how it is to treat your wife, how to treat your kids, being logical, having good conversation. He wasn't like super educated, I would say. He has a college degree, but he wasn't super polished, if you will. And so that being said, I remember like growing up and my dad being like, "Hey, you guys got to go shovel the walk for so and so down the street because she's older and can't get out of the house," or "Hey, today we're going to go do this project for someone in the neighborhood because they need help," or "Hey, there's a service project going on, so we're going to go help," and like regardless of whether you wanted to or not, you went. And so I think more than anything, like there are things that I want to tell my kids, but I want them to know, hey, like we treat everyone kind because dad treats everyone kind, you know? No matter if it's the CEO in the building or the janitor, dad treats them the same. Dad works hard because he busts his butt, and this is what he does to show us that he works hard. You know, dad always chooses to be happy. Life's not always easy. There's lots of struggles, but for the most part, dad's always happy, you know? So those are, I think that's my thought on that question. It's a great question though.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Really, really good. Very simple too. Do you guys do any like affirmation type stuff like that? You done anything?
No, I tried for, I don't know. You get,
we were off and on.
You get in patterns, you know, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then suddenly next week, my pattern changes. I'm gone in the mornings. But I tried, I get, who was it? I forget who said it, but they said, be the last one to hug or release on a hug. And so in the mornings I tried to hug, and it was funny because my kids, I always like hug them, and then I'll like, all right, sweet, thank you, like, love you. And I was like, I like never thought about it, but I realized that I'm letting go sometimes, like within like, you know, a tenth of a second or like 2 seconds, and they are like squeezing still tight. And I'm like, holy crap, they want that longer connection. So that was one thing where I'd always come home and just try and squeeze a hug for a long time. But I wouldn't say I necessarily do that consistently. That's awesome. But that's definitely mine. What about you, Devin? Do you have?
We like wrote a family, you know, affirmation kind of thing or proclamations, whatever you want to call it. And it's like hanging in our bathroom, and we say it, semi regularly, but definitely something we could, you know, be more deliberate about. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just making sure they memorize it, and like they'll say it, you know, there's certain times when they're like, I'm confident, you know, and they'll like say it out, and like I hear them playing and they'll like say phrases from it. I'm like, okay, well, they got some of it, you know, like
they're picking it up.
I think that's the biggest thing is they're not going to catch everything, but you know, they'll catch here and there. I think just trying is the most important thing. So,
yeah.
I
love that. Heck yeah. What would you say would be, or do you plan on teaching your kids like management skills or life skills? And if you do, I feel like you would be, you know, definitely the type that would have at least something angled or not. I don't know. But just we were talking the other day about like raising our kids, and it was like, you know, don't give them what you wish you had, teach them what you wish you knew. Yeah. And it was like, I've always wanted to get my kids so that they learn, you know, how to be a leader in a situation or how to be quick to solve or things like that. And is there anything that you plan on doing as your kids grow up in those directions? If that made sense, Devin, help that. If that didn't.
No, I don't think you butchered that. I think that was a good.
Well done. Nicely
and
done.
This is great question. This is hard because, like, I look at how I was raised, and I don't like. I had great parents. They did a fantastic job raising us, and it's like would I love for them to understand and learn management skills or leadership skills, communication skills. Yes, I would. Do I expect them to like have those and maintain those for the rest of their life? No, because like looking at it from an employer perspective, if everyone had or was a good entrepreneur, I'd have no employees and I'd have no business, you know? And so some people have like, and that's not like to knock anyone who's not a business owner by any means. It's just to say, hey, some people are good at some things, and some people are, some people are good at other things. Do I want my boys to be able to go up to someone give them a firm handshake, look them in the eye and say, hey, my name is Brady, and what's your name? How are you doing? Yeah, like that's just a basic skill that they should do. And like we already kind of practice that, if you will. We play around with it, or they do it with their grandpas. But as far as that, like I think just naturally participating in sports, which whether they want to or not, they really don't have a choice about that. They will be playing sports, but like participating in sports, or whether practicing the piano for discipline, or like some of those things naturally build some of those. Now, I don't know if the question that you really wanted to ask was like, are you going to make sure they have good financial principles? It's like, well, yeah, but I haven't really figured out what the best way to do that is. There's some ideas I have. There's some scenarios that other people in my circles have kind of taught me and showed me what they've done with their kids that I think would be good. But I don't know. I think a lot of those just come like naturally as they progress through life. And the interesting thing about my boys, at least based on how I grew up, that'll be different is like, yeah, I will tote my kids around when they're at an appropriate age to partnership meetings, to meetings with our attorneys, to go look at real estate properties that we have, go look at deals, analyze deals. Like they'll have some of that experience because that's just what I'm involved in. Whereas I learned how to clean a toilet really good. I know how to clean, I know how to vacuum really well because my parents owned a janitorial business, but
So real.
That's very real. My dad worked at a community college, and so I went to like a lot of volunteer events and like fundraising events and government things, and but definitely not like we're not walking apartment buildings, as a kid. So, but that's okay. Everybody's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. Well, my dad was in sales all growing up, so it was like from he was a chiropractor early, and then multi-level marketing sales. So I got to watch him like high-level sales or talk to people, and so now I get to talk a lot. So that's fun. It's cool to see what you take from your dad. And you don't realize it. You're like, oh, especially sometimes like you just are so mad at your dad. You're like, oh, I'm nothing like you, and then later in life, you're like getting mad at your kid and you're like, wow, that was
exactly my dad. I'm really similar to my mom. We're both very type A personalities. We're pretty blunt. I would say both my parents are non-emotive, but like I clashed with my mom, I think a little bit more than I did my dad, but my dad was always like, I'd get the wooden spoon, on the behind from my mom running up the stairs, or, she'd be the one to kind of, we'd get her hot breath. She'd sit there and not curse us out, but she'd have a talking to, for a good little bit. And then my dad would always be the one that he had these one-liners that really knew how to get right to the bottom of your heart and make you just feel like a piece of shit. And so that's kind of like, I'm still trying to figure out that skill. Like I get a little emotion, like I get high emotion when something goes wrong, but I want to be able to have the skill of just having the one-liner. Like I remember one time I did something, and the only thing my dad said, and this was the only thing he said to me for like 3 or 4 days in this instance, was, "I'm really disappointed in you." And I was just like, oh man, like it was one of those like, wow, I've messed up,
Yeah.
And then my mom talked to me for like an hour yelling at me because I did this stupid thing, and I'm like, yeah, whatever,
And you're like, I can take that all day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but those 2 or 3 words, I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed in you. I was like, whoa. So
you're like, oh, why is my soul crushed right now?
Oh yeah. I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. Been there. Oh man. Yeah, those one-liners of I'm disappointed or things like that, man, those I'm like, you could wail on me, I'd be down, and I'm like, because I could be mad at you, but when it's like the disappointment, it was like, I can't be mad at you. I could just Oh, that's so real.
Okay, I'm curious. So the news right now, I'm social media, obviously, if you guys are on social media or watching social media, there's just crazy things going on everywhere. And most of this, we've talked about our internal families and kind of our immediate like sphere of influence, we can say. I'm really curious your opinions on just dads kind of outside of just the family, dads in the community, dads in the world. Like, are you active outside your immediate sphere? Like, what's your opinions on that? Is it like, hey, I'm going to go make a huge difference? Like, are there levels to it? How do you view the role of dads outside of your immediate family in society?
Hmm.
Curious
Great.
about that.
I mean, geez, nothing like a question that'll make you feel like you're not doing enough.
And I'm not super involved either. So if they're not involved, that's okay.
Like I'm involved with our church congregation. I have a couple of like volunteer positions there. And I would say I'm very active on social media. I have people that follow me on social media, and although a lot of it is business focused, I think I have positioned myself in such a way to where people know what kind of person I am on social media. And if I haven't, then I've done a poor job at that. And I could do a better job at that, I guess. Outside of my sphere, it's hard because I've been so involved in building my businesses and being a part of the different business communities that we're a part of and the business groups and, different coaching groups and things like that. So it's hard to say that, like, if you're looking at it from the scope of like an international or a national or like a local kind of community aspect, I'd say I've probably done a poor job at that. But I also look at that question and say, what better responsibility do I have than to lead the ones that are in my own home? Like I can only control so much of what happens outside my home, but I have a lot of control of what happens inside my home. And no matter how you look at it, that is going to affect future households and how they perform in society and what kind of households they raise and preside over. So yeah, I could probably do better, but like I try hard with the one that, with my domain or, whatever I'm in charge of.
Yeah.
Totally.
That was a great answer, man. That's no, like, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer of the opinion on that. I think it's whatever you're given stewardship over, like that should be your number one priority, right?
Oh yeah. And, I look at some people, and this is kind of like my wife and I have had this conversation before, but the conversation is, I would be so much farther along in my businesses if I wasn't married or I didn't have kids. Truthfully, I would be in a much different position. But that being said, there's so much joy and happiness with having them that I can't imagine it any other way. And I look at some of what is going on around the world, politically, economically, and I really feel sorry for the people that either have chosen. There's one guy in particular that I know. He's big on social media, and he's chosen not to get married, and he's chosen not to have kids, and he's gone on this spiritual, metaphorical journey over the last 12 to 18 months that, like, if you understood the powers of a family, you wouldn't, personally, I don't think you'd be having those problems. Truthfully, that's what my opinion is. And then I look at the other side of things where you have lots of guys who choose not to have that, or they choose to leave that, and they leave behind an opportunity to help their kids or help their spouse or their ex-spouse, with that. And it's kind of a sad world we live in, where not just being a dad, but having a family is kind of not cool,
Yeah. Totally. Well, and two, I look at, you're like, you would be farther along without like family or, or like kids, or not saying that is like I totally understand it. But sometimes too, I look at like, I might not be as far.
Well, and like I'm specifically referring to like where my business is at, or financially or monetarily, like, because I'd be working like a dog, right? But is that the life I actually want? No, it's not,
Totally. Well, and sometimes I I like thinking about my family on, per se on my back. And it's like, hey, well, I gotta freaking step up.
Yes.
And so sometimes I think that if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be as far along because I wouldn't have the push.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's like, I made my month that I need. Now I'm gonna go on vacation.
Now I'm gonna party.
Or whatever.
Yeah, when I started High Country Finance, in March of 2020, and we had just found out that we were pregnant with Coy, our oldest, and my wife was the full-time provider because I was still part-time in school while I was working part-time. We had just bought a house. My wife had a great income when we got married. She owned her own business. But that situation, being married, having just bought a house, and expecting our first child, like it really put my back against the wall. And I had no choice. Like I had to go succeed, and I was going to do it by whatever means possible. And by any stretch of the imagination, I'd say I'd done so.
Yeah,
totally.
I think you totally have. Yeah. I see myself like my first summer of door-to-door sales, and I always compare it because I was a rookie, right? And the other guys, there were a lot of other guys in the office that were rookies and they weren't married. And just the fact that I was married and had to provide, I know I outproduced them because of that.
Yeah.
Like they're just, I can't quit. There's just something about it. So there's definitely both sides. And I joke with my wife all the time. I'm like, I don't know if I'd be homeless. I don't know where I would be if I, like didn't have that motivation. So there's definitely two sides to it. Cause I also have a buddy that like, man, he's crushed it. And, we went to school together and all these other things, but he's not married, no kids, and has more money than, than he would ever need. Right. So, it's just a very different, perspective, both sides. But, I definitely, there's nothing I would trade. Absolutely. So just to make that abundantly clear.
Same. Yeah. It's the joys.
Yeah. Me too, guys. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Well, we're almost at 45 minutes, man. I know you got an hour. Is there anything else about being a dad that you want to share about, challenges, things you would teach,
or what would you say? What would be something you would say to a new dad that is expecting next month or expecting a baby this year?
Get as much sleep as you can, Pard, because you're going to go a long haul. No, like our kids have actually like slept really good. I really don't have any complaints. A new dad.
Pass the dad wisdom on.
Pass the dad.
I was, when I was dating my wife, she would always kind of make fun of my parents because my parents don't have like a lot of friends. They've got a couple of friends, but they'd really like, my parents' ideal date night would be to get takeout and come home and watch a movie together and just spend time together. Like when we go to my parents' house, odds are is they're either on the couch or they're in their bedroom just watching TV together, hanging out, talking, doing a little bit of work together or something like that. And my wife would always make fun of them. She's like, "What? Like, I don't ever see you guys do anything but this." And my parents did a fantastic job of making sure that me and my brothers knew that we were not the most important people in their lives, that they were each other's most important person. Yeah. And so like, cool. even though, yes, I love my children dearly, even though I would do anything for them, their mom is more important to me than them. Like, and even in like our conversations, if we're in the car and me and McKenna are talking about something and Coy interjects from the back, I'll tell him, me and mom are talking. I'll talk to you when we're done. And I'll go back to having a conversation with my wife. And then once we're done, I'll address him. Hey, bud, what's up? What were you going to say? And he he's starting to understand, okay, mom and dad are talking, so I'll wait until they're done. But I think, and the reason why I say that is because your kids, no matter if it's a girl or a boy, they marry the example that they see, or they become the example that they see, So for my boys, I want them to treat their future spouse and their future kids like I'm going to treat their mother and them, And if you have I don't have a daughter, but if you have a daughter And as a dad, you're treating your mother in a certain way. They're going to marry that. They're going to want to marry that one day. And so I think regardless of that, the element of your spouse comes into play and does affect how your kids are going to emulate that when they're older. So, but yeah, if you're expecting, get a lot of sleep because you're going to need
it. Dude, well said.
Yeah, I love it.
That was a gem. I love it.
Heck yeah.
I think that's a great place to wrap up.
Yeah,
what do you guys think?
We can wrap up.
I appreciate it. Yeah, make sure you wrap up when more kids are coming. Or wait,
oh my God. Good Dads episode.
Yes. Yes. Yes.